presenter for today is Joop van Nierop, who is a BSN action learning coach. His roots lie in public sports and recreation sector, an inspiring field where he has fulfilled various managerial and substantive roles, providing leadership as Director of Sports Foundation, Policy Advisor, Interim Manager of Automation and Information Provision, Manager of Teams for Strategy, Broad Support and Account Management, Manager of Teams for Policy, Projects, Subsidies, Research and Events, Project Leader for European Initiatives in the field of physical activity and health. Using this experience and current managerial knowledge, he is also an active player in the action learning phase as an action learning coach for Business School Netherlands. Welcome to Joop van Nierop. You are welcome. Give me 1 minute to speak about the reflector for today. The reflector for today is an owner of Collected Action Learning, also for BSN Action. He's also a BSN Action Learning coach. He is the co-founder of Connected Action Learning, and since 2011, he has worked assiduously with everything he learned on connection, safety, and trust in teams. He is therefore an expert on team dynamics as well. He has mastered the art of leading with questions and action learning, which are very helpful in this area. Asking the right questions at the right time and in the right way requires experience and professional guidance. Getting people unstuck is his passion. He uses his intuition and insight from system work, transactional analysis, and neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. Ladies and gentlemen, may we welcome Jans van Buchten. You are welcome as well, Jans. On that note, I would like to hand over to Joop, who would actually start with his presentation. And after his presentation, it will be followed by reflection. Joop will speak for just 15 minutes, and the reflector will speak for just 5 minutes. And thereafter, we will moderate the question and answer session. Over to you, Joop, for your presentation. Thank you.
You're on mute.
You have to unmute. Yeah. Unmute, Joop. Unmute.
I was thrown out before. Okay. Thank you, Leo, for your introduction. I appreciate to share my vision and experiences on the theme of this morning. And I will guide you in 5 steps through my presentation in 15 minutes. First sheet, please. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. The 5 steps are changing business environment, team roles and team dynamics, psychological knowledge, successful teams, and solving problems. Next sheet, please. Slide, please. I will mention 2 game changers for our business environment. First, the new European ESG regulations, and ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance regulations. And environment is a broad understanding. More concrete, it's about the stimulation of sustainability and circularity. And that's because of the goal of the European Union to reduce the gas emission by 55% in 2030. Social regulations stands for the well-being of employees in companies. And governance is the responsibility of companies for the two issues I mentioned. And it's for sure that this legislation will influence business models in the Netherlands and Europe. A good example is the agriculture business, the steel industry. Secondly, digital acceleration. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Alexander van der Lof, the CEO of the TKH, the TKH Group in the Netherlands, spoke on a meeting with shareholders enthusiastic about the possibilities of AI. The TKH Group, produces subsea cable systems for windmills, windmill parks at sea. And the CEO I mentioned sees possibilities to provide his customers with better solutions by AI. And even I was surprised that he therefore mentioned that the TKH Group has installed an AI team in Amsterdam. Well, it are examples that we are at the beginning of the use of AI in business. There's no doubt that these developments, and undoubtedly there are more, so invite the audience to mention an important game changer, in their own country or business. Undoubtedly there are more, and we this will lead to unexpected challenges and possibilities for companies. And that's why companies has a need for balanced, motivated and competent teams, for product innovation, renewal marketing strategies, to develop sophisticated software and so on. But the question is, how will they achieve this? Sheet, please.
Am I behind one sheet?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well, okay. A company, how will they achieve this? A company can take over a team from a startup that already offers the necessary innovation. But most of the time, they will form teams within their companies. So I think there is a need for competent team leadership. Will you present the other sheet, please, from about team roles and team dynamics? Yes, thank you. So I think there's a need for competent team leadership, and that's not by definition a mid-level manager. A team leader has a greater focus on how to interact with a team as a whole and the individual members, and by this way maximize team performance. An important skills of a team leader are interpersonal communication to exchange ideas, mentoring and problem solving. And it's no surprise that a team leader also has to be familiar with models for team roles to compile a balanced team. For example, the 9 team roles from Belbin and the roles of Larry with 4 basic behaviors. And the team leader also needs a good understanding of team dynamics. For example, the 5 stages of the Tuckman model. forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. And I think that's very important in this presentation, the team leader has to be aware of undercurrent. Despite my experience with teams, I was sometimes still surprised by teams' behavior and caused by the undercurrent in a team. And my learning experience was I needed more psychological knowledge for a better understanding of teams' behavior and how to deal with it. Next sheet, please. Next slide, please. Well, I was attracted by the following psychological models. At first, the positive psychology model of Seligman and Csikszentmihalyi. The scope of this model is I'm okay, you're okay, and it has a focus on stimulating employees to recognize and use their skills, and because of that, feel happy in their jobs. Another model, very, very interesting model, is the Golden Circle model from the psycholog Simon Sinek. Start with why. And this model is actually 3 words: why, how, and what. And at the start of a team, the most important question is, why are we together in this team? What our shared values, why our team is strongly motivated to achieve the new and challenging goals of our organization. And in my experience, that's the why is a very important motivation for team members to achieve goals. And there is the process communication model of Dr. Tyree Kahler. The sheet shows the house of personality at the right of the sheet, slide. And these models, this model, this model implies that every individual has 6 personalities within him or her. One is dominant, and when you want to use one of the other personalities, you have to climb the stairs, and that costs you more energy. And the scope of this model is how a person perceives the world, how they communicate, how they are motivated, and how they will behave in distress. And it helps, in my opinion, a team leader in the communication and cooperation with each member of his team, of her team, by knowing their needs and from his or herself. Sheet, please. Yeah, successful teams. Well, this is the psychological models. Yeah, I would have known before when I was doing my job as a team leader or a manager. Successful teams. Summarizing what to do for creating successful teams. Well, it's clear that you have to set requirements for knowledge and skills, especially for team leaders. And scouting potentials and talents for this role, inside or outside your organization, and not on format a mid-level manager. Scout, for example, talents at startup boot camps or esports events. And well, also we don't have to forget the universities where many startups started. And in our global community, be alert of leverage on diversity. And focus on behavior. And therefore, the importance of psychological insight. And at least, and apply action learning on urgent and complex problems. And, well, I prefer it to call it challenges. Next slide, please. Yeah, solving problems, solving great problems by using the action learning methods. That's always start with great questions to approach a problem or challenge. And please see the quote of Albert Einstein. Well, if I had 1 hour to solve a problem and my life depended on it, I would use the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. Well, I think when you use the action learning method, you are in good company. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joop, for the wonderful presentation on the theme for today. We will now call on the reflector, our BSN Action Learning Coach, Ian, to please share his reflection in the next 5 minutes.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Joop. And with thanks to Robert Williams, good morning, BSN.
Good morning, Ian.
Just want to wake you up if you're not awake anymore. So, do you agree that successful transitions in organizations starts with their leaders? So that leadership plays a crucial role. And in this regard, what do you think about the importance of connection? From my experience, the number one reason why leaders fail is their inability to connect. And therefore, the number one reason probably why transitions in organizations fail is the fact that their leaders are unable to connect. But then how do we connect? How do you connect to the people you are leading? How do you do that? By applying action learning? Or by using the famous title of the book, Leading with Questions? Are you leading with questions? And if you are, what is leading with questions? What are the practical do's and don'ts of leading with questions? And in principle, it means you stop trying to convince the people you are leading. And you start and keep on asking questions. So leading with questions is, in my view, one of the biggest aspects of action learning. It's the fundamental and key thing which makes action learning so incredibly effective. Asking the right questions in the right way at the right moment. But you can't always apply action learning in your organization. You can't every day say, let's focus on artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence is impacting our organization. Let's sit together and look at root causes why we still don't apply AI, for example, ourselves. But leading with questions is something you can do every day and every moment. So you could actually say that every moment that you speak to the people you lead is an opportunity to learn, if you are willing to ask her or him questions instead of trying to convince him that your view on the solution to problems is the only solution possible. So what are the do's and don'ts? So what you probably know is that we always say, try to ask open-ended questions. Ask one question at a time. Keep away your beliefs, your ideas, keep away your judgments in your question. So let the question be just one short, open question you ask to your people, because then you will give them the opportunity to learn. Then you will give them the opportunity to search for answers and learn from that. So how many times are you asking questions to the people you are leading? And especially in stressful times, what is the impact of stress, a crisis, something really going wrong in your organization? How able are you then still to ask questions instead of trying to convince the people you are leading? And if you then are asking questions, are you only using your ears to listen to the language, to the answer, to the words, or are you also using your eyes and are you viewing what is happening with the colleague you are asking questions to, related to the non-verbal cues or non-verbal communication? Are you watching them if you ask them these questions? And are you genuinely curious about their answer? Or do you think, yeah, I know this colleague already for 5 years. I know her view, I know his beliefs. I just ask a question because I should, but I'm not really interested in the answer. So how does that impact connection? If you ask a question and you're not curious about the answer, if you don't not only use your ears, but also look at the person you're asking the question to, and also use your gut feeling, what's happening in this connection with this colleague. So I want to stop my reflection on these challenging times and leading with questions. And my question to you would be, what are your questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hans.
My pleasure,
Starting
Leary.
from Thank you. Starting from where I stopped, what are your questions? It's now session for Q&A, questions and answers. And the first questions had been fired by Dr. Solomon Pandey. His question is, in applying action learning and in leading with questions, what role does trust play in enhancing team performance? Over to you, Joop and Hans.
That is a great question. Joop, you want to take the word, or should I answer this question?
Yes, please. Okay, Hans.
Okay, I think it's a great question. We, and that also includes Business School in the Netherlands, use the next to connection, we focus on trust, but also on safety. And safety is linked to social or psychological safety. So trust is like a fundamental thing in teams, in organizations, especially in challenging times. So what can you do when, let's say, mutual trust within teams is missing? My answer should be, ask each other questions, get to know each other really well. Not only ask questions about the problem in the organization, for example, but get to know each other on a personal level, and use the questions asked by co-members or team members to get to know each other very well. The level of trust is related to how well we know the people we work with. And the answer to that question is asking questions. Keep asking questions. Get to know each other. Would you like to elaborate a bit more about that, Joop?
Yeah, and
Let's,
my my opinion and suggestion is to use forms of gamifications of games, yeah, to know each other better. And that's a start, yeah, to trust, your the others, your colleagues. And when you're back on your working place, yeah, I think you have a better connection by the communication than before.
That's fine. Thank you to these two action learning experts who are providing the leadway and pathway for us to become better in understanding team dynamics. Another question that is on that have been raised by Dr. Mohammed Yassin is when using a psychological approach, how do you deal with your own as a coach?
Can you repeat
Yes.
your question, please?
When using psychological approach for team management, how do you deal with your own psychological filters as a coach?
Okay. If you would ask me that question, I would answer getting to know myself is essential. Connecting with myself is essential, but also acknowledging the losses I have in my life. And every person, every human being has losses. And if I am, as a leader, willing to acknowledge my losses and even make the second step by transforming losses in my life as an inspiration to do good things, the why Joop was referring to give answer to the why. Why? How can I make this world a bit better? It starts by acknowledging my own losses, transforming them into inspiration. And if I am willing to acknowledge my losses, I'm very able to be present with people who suffer losses at that moment in the organization you are leading.
That's great. Thank you, Ernst.
My pleasure.
It appears Jupe would like to add one or two things before I ask the next question.
Yeah, and well, um, if you speak about your own personality, I will refer to the model of Dr. Tabi Kahler with the
Okay.
6 personalities. And well, you have to know your own dominant personality. And by knowing this, you also know what are your own beliefs, what your own perceives, and that you will help you uh, to also understand how what your place is in your organization and the world, and have a better communication with your colleagues and team members.
Thank you, Jupe. The next question is from Nakimi Juliet. And the question is on psychological knowledge. How do you identify the indicators of the personalities displayed by the team with particular reference to the house of personality?
Well, that's a good question. And the answer is that every for every model there is an instrument, and mostly that are interviews um, with a person, yeah, to with questions and answers. So you have after um, all when you have all the answers, you can have an idea of what the dominant personality of the person in question is.
Any comments from Ernst?
Well, I'm not very familiar with that tool, but there are so many assessment and tools like MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. So it's what suits you well, I would say. I personally, when I work with teams, focus on what is happening when we work on complex problems. So if I work with teams and the team group size is maximum 7, and the problem owner is presenting the problems, and I start by asking who has the first questions, and we work for 3/4 to an hour on asking the problem owner and each other questions, all dynamics are clear. I can see the ones who are very expressive and very easy to ask questions, and I also see the more quiet members of the group. And then I invite these quiet members of the group to ask their questions, because they're much more observing probably than the others, and their question might have gold in it. So the great questions are coming for the more, let's say, observing members of teams, and that holds enormous quantity of value for the team and for solving that problem and to finding root causes of that problem. And next to that, Joop was also referring to undercurrent. I think, from my experience as a action learning lecturer and coach, that I think 8 to 10 root causes of problems lie in the undercurrent. And that has to do with psychology. It's related to team dynamics. It's related to relationships between members of the team. It's related to safety and connection and trust in that team. So it plays a huge role. And one way of getting to know what's really happening is asking the right questions and be able and be willing to also ask that very, let's say, vulnerable question. Would you be willing to answer a personal question? What is happening between, as an example, between you and you? Or what is happening in this team?
Thank you, Hans. And we are coming towards the end of the program. In summary, these great experts on action learning from the BSN community, who are action learning coaches for Business School Netherlands, have been able in the last few minutes to summarize that effective leadership and indeed positive team dynamics are very essential for guiding organizations through transition. They were able to speak about the need to foster clear communication, strategic planning, empowerment. They spoke about the need for resilience, management, collaboration, celebration of achievement, and the fact that leadership, particularly the team leaders, they play a very key role in inspiring and supporting teams in adapting to change, overcoming challenges, and driving success during periods of transition. They also mentioned the need to understand the psychological profiles of the people you work with,
Yeah,
or would
yeah,
I
yeah.
say both psychological and personality profile. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this program. I would like to say big thanks to all of you